Cry Wolf and Die by Jansen Davies. Chapter 1. The Deceivers' Doctrine. They called it Operation Howl, a name whispered with pride in the obsidian halls of Shorgani High Command. The Shorgani did not conquer with brute force alone. They were tacticians, illusionists, architects of collapse. Their greatest victories came not from firepower, but from the art of misdirection. Empires had fallen to whispers, civilizations had crumbled under the weight of false alarms. Earth, they believed, would be no different. Mire 7 was chosen, a quiet colony on the edge of human expansion, sparse defenses, minimal traffic, a place that barely registered on galactic maps. Perfect. The plan was elegant: simulate distress, broadcast panic. Watch how Earth responded, measure their strength, their speed, their resolve. Cloaked ships slipped into orbit, silent as shadows, and began their vigil. The first transmission was subtle, a low-frequency signal, barely urgent, a mining accident, perhaps, a flicker of unease. Earth dispatched a small cruiser squadron, cautious, professional, forgettable. The colonists were confused but grateful. The Shorgani were unimpressed. They escalated. Each signal grew more frantic. The humans responded, but slowly, sparingly. The Shorgani watched, recorded, analyzed. Their war rooms filled with data and disdain. "They are slow," one strategist hissed. "Soft, predictable." The High Command nodded. The plan was working. Earth was revealing itself, its rhythms, its reflexes, its blind spots. And yet, something lingered. A silence beneath the signals, a stillness in the colony's response. The Shorgani dismissed it as human confusion. They had seen it before, species paralyzed by fear, unable to grasp the scale of what approached. They did not consider that silence might be deliberate. They did not consider that Earth might be listening. Chapter 2. Echoes of Panic. The second signal was louder, a simulated reactor breach, static-laced screams, a falsified death toll. The Shorgani cloaked ships hovered in orbit, recording every flicker of Earth's response. A single destroyer arrived, sleek, silent, methodical. It scanned the colony, spoke briefly with local command, and departed without fanfare. The Shorgani were baffled. "Where is their urgency?" one tactician spat. "Where is their fear?" The third signal was a full-blown attack scenario. Fabricated enemy ships, doctored visuals, a broadcast voice trembling with terror. "They're inside the perimeter. We're losing control." Earth sent a small task force. No dreadnoughts, no planetary lockdown, just a handful of cruisers and a medical frigate. They landed, checked vitals, and left. The Shorgani grew restless. In their culture, panic was power, fear was leverage. They had broken empires with nothing but well-timed screams. But Earth absorbed panic like a black hole, silent, cold, unreadable. The colony itself remained eerily calm. No evacuations, no martial law. Children still played in the dust. Farmers still tilled the soil. The Shorgani dismissed it as ignorance. "They don't understand what's coming," said the lead strategist. "They are blind to consequence." But one junior analyst hesitated. She had watched the colony's broadcasts, studied the humans' eyes. There was something in their stillness, something deliberate. She brought her concerns to command. She was ignored. Chapter 3. The Colony That Cried. The fourth signal was chaos incarnate, a fabricated orbital breach, simulated hull ruptures, civilian screams layered over static. The Shorgani cloaked fleet pulsed with anticipation, their sensors tuned to every ripple of Earth's response. This time, Earth sent more: a tactical wing of cruisers, a medical frigate, a pair of atmospheric scouts. They arrived in formation, silent and precise, like surgeons entering a room already prepped for trauma. They found no breach, no casualties, no panic. The colonists were calm, too calm. Children played in the dust. Traders bartered in the open square. A local commander offered tea to the Earth officers and asked, with genuine confusion, "Is something wrong?" The Shorgani watched from orbit, baffled. "They're numb," one strategist muttered. "They've normalized terror." Another disagreed. "They're hiding something." The colony's broadcasts were clean. No encrypted chatter, no military buildup, no signs of evacuation, just routine transmissions, weather reports, crop yields, a poetry contest scheduled for the weekend. The Shorgani dismissed it as human fragility. They had seen it before, species so overwhelmed by fear they clung to normalcy like a lifeline. But beneath the surface, something shifted. The junior analyst, still ignored, noticed a pattern. The colony's comms were too clean, too curated, as if someone knew they were being watched. She flagged the anomaly. Her report was buried. The High Command had already made its decision. The next signal would be the last. Chapter 4. Orbit of Shadows. The Shorgani fleet drifted above Mire 7 like a constellation of knives, cloaked, silent, watching. Their ships, sleek, predatory, hung in high orbit, invisible to the colony below. Sensor arrays pulsed with data. Every heartbeat, every transmission, every flicker of movement was recorded, dissected, archived. The final distress signal had been sent. A full-scale planetary siege, fabricated in exquisite detail. Enemy silhouettes, surface explosions. A panicked voice crying, "We're being overrun." "Please, anyone." Earth did not respond immediately. The Shorgani took this as confirmation. The humans were slow, complacent, vulnerable. They began to mobilize, war engines powered up, troop carriers aligned. The fleet's formation shifted from observation to assault. In the command vessel Vengeance of Stars, Admiral Koran stood before the tactical display, his voice a low growl. "Prepare for descent." Below, the colony remained unchanged. No evacuations, no lockdowns, no visible defenses. Children still played in the dust. A local broadcast aired a segment on soil enrichment. A schoolteacher recited poetry about the moons. It was maddening. "They should be screaming," hissed one officer. "They should be gone," said another. But they weren't. The junior analyst watched the colony's stillness and felt something ancient stir in her chest, a warning, unspoken. She reviewed the data again. The colony's comms were too clean, too curated, as if someone had scrubbed them. She brought her findings to the War Council. They dismissed her. The invasion was already in motion. The Shorgani fleet began its descent, and the shadows began to thin. Chapter 5. The Wolf Descends. The fleet broke orbit like a blade unsheathed. Shorgani warships peeled from the sky in perfect formation, sleek, symmetrical, and merciless. Their descent was a ritual, rehearsed across 100 conquests. Engines roared in silence, cloaked against detection. Troop carriers followed, their bellies full of soldiers bred for domination. Admiral Koran stood at the prow of Vengeance of Stars, watching the colony swell beneath them. Mire 7 looked small, fragile, unworthy. "This will be swift," he said. The command bridge pulsed with confidence. Tactical screens showed no resistance, no planetary shields, no orbital defenses, just farmland, dust, and scattered settlements. The colony's last broadcast had been a children's choir singing about the moons. The Shorgani mistook it for innocence. They mistook it for surrender. Below, the colonists moved slowly. No panic, no evacuation. A woman hung laundry. A child chased a wind-blown scrap of paper. A preacher read aloud from a book older than the stars. The junior analyst watched from her station, unease blooming in her chest. She zoomed in on the child's face. No fear, just focus, as if he were waiting for something. She opened a channel to command. "Sir," she said, "I think—" Her voice was cut off by the descent alarm. The fleet entered atmosphere. The invasion had begun. And still, Earth said nothing. Chapter 6. False Gods Fall. First, they landed like gods. Shorgani dropships pierced the clouds in symmetrical descent, trailing contrails like celestial scars. Their hulls shimmered with cloaking residue, shedding invisibility like a second skin. The ground trembled beneath their arrival, not from impact but from the weight of their certainty. Admiral Corrin stepped onto Mire 7's soil with ceremonial precision. His boots sank into dust. His soldiers fanned out in perfect formation. No resistance, no alarms, no weapons raised. The colony was quiet. A child watched from a rooftop, legs swinging. A farmer leaned on his rake. A preacher closed his book and looked skyward, expression unreadable. Corran raised his voice. "You are now under Shorgani authority. Cooperate, and you will be spared." No one responded. The silence was not fear. It was something older, something colder. The junior analyst, still aboard the command ship, stared at the colony's telemetry. No panic, no deviation, no signs of surrender. She whispered to herself, "This isn't right." Then the ground opened. Not metaphorically, literally. Panels slid back, turrets rose, mechs unfolded from beneath farmland. The preacher stepped aside as a railgun emerged from the chapel floor. The child on the rooftop vanished in a blur of jetpack ignition. Earth had not been sleeping. Earth had been waiting, and the gods had already begun to fall. Chapter 7. Steel Baptism. The first Shorgani platoon touched down in Sector 9. They expected dust, civilians, surrender. Instead, they found fire. Earth's war machines rose from beneath the soil, mechs forged in silence, painted in ash, bristling with weapons that shimmered like prophecy. Their armor bore no insignia. Their movements were not rehearsed. They were instinct. The Shorgani opened fire. The mechs did not flinch. They advanced with terrifying grace, absorbing plasma bursts, returning fire with railguns that tore through Shorgani ranks like scripture through lies. One Shorgani squad tried to flank. They were met by airborne infantry, humans in exo-armor, wings of flame, rifles that sang like thunder. Admiral Corrin watched from orbit, stunned. "This isn't possible," he whispered. But it was. Earth's silence had not been ignorance. It had been preparation. Every distress call had been bait. Every delay, a calibration. Every child's song, a lullaby for war. The colony was no colony. It was a trap. And the Shorgani had stepped inside. The junior analyst, still aboard Vengeance of Stars, stared at the battlefield feed. Her voice trembled. They knew. Below, the dust turned red. Shorgani formations broke. Orders dissolved into screams. Earth soldiers moved like myth, disciplined, ruthless, unrelenting. The baptism had begun, and it was made of steel. Chapter 8. Skyfire Protocol. The sky ignited. Earth's airborne divisions launched in synchronized waves, armored infantry with jetpacks, wings of alloy and flame, weapons that roared like thunder gods. They rose from rooftops, silos, hidden bunkers, their ascent choreographed like a ritual. The colony's silence fractured into war hymns. Shorgani cruisers scrambled to respond. Too late. Earth's aerial units moved like prophecy, fast, precise, merciless. They tore through Shorgani formations with plasma lances and guided rail bursts. One squadron dove through a destroyer's hull, carving it open like fruit. Another danced between flak bursts, painting the sky with contrails and fire. Admiral Corrin watched from orbit, his tactical display bleeding red. "This isn't a colony," he muttered. "It's a fortress." On the ground, Shorgani troops faltered. Their air support was shredded. Their formations collapsed. Earth's mechs advanced beneath the aerial barrage, coordinated by command nodes hidden in the colony's infrastructure. The junior analyst stared at the feed, numb. Every signal Earth had received, every fake distress call, had been answered not with panic, but with preparation. The humans hadn't just anticipated invasion, they had rehearsed it. Above Mir 7, the sky burned, and the Shorgani began to fall. Chapter 9. The ground remembers. The soil drank everything. Plasma, blood, ash, screams. Shorgani bodies lay twisted across the fields they once mocked. Earth soldiers moved through the wreckage with quiet precision, not triumphant, not cruel, but focused. Their armor bore no names, their weapons bore no mercy. Each step was deliberate, each kill remembered. The mechs advanced like tectonic gods, their servos humming hymns of vengeance. Infantry followed in tight formations, boots pressing into the dust with reverence. They did not cheer. They did not speak. They fought like they had done this before. Because they had. Every trench had been dug with intent, every farmhouse wired for defense, every chapel a command node. The Shorgani had mistaken silence for ignorance. They had mistaken stillness for surrender. Now they mistook death for anomaly. Admiral Corrin's voice cracked over the command channel. "Why aren't they breaking?" The junior analyst didn't answer. She watched a squad of Earth soldiers retrieve their fallen, wrapping bodies in cloth marked with ancient symbols. One soldier knelt beside a crater, pressing his hand into the soil. Not to mourn, to remember. The ground held every invasion, every betrayal, every cry that had gone unanswered. And now it held the Shorgani. Earth had not forgotten, and the ground never forgives. Chapter 10. The Archive of War. They called it Skyfire Protocol. But that was just the surface name, the tactical designation. Beneath it lay something older, something sacred. Earth's soldiers did not fight for territory. They fought for memory. Every maneuver, every formation, every counter-strike was drawn from the archive, a living doctrine etched into bloodlines, passed down through silence and scars. The archive was not digital. It was oral, ritual, embodied. A soldier in Sector 12 moved with the same rhythm his grandmother had used in the Martian uprising. A mech pilot whispered the names of fallen ancestors before each ignition. A sniper carved tally marks into her armor, not for kills, but for moments survived. The Shorgani had no equivalent. Their tactics were brilliant, their formations flawless, but they had no memory, no myth, no grief. And so they broke. Admiral Corrin watched his command dissolve. Orders were ignored, squadrons scattered. The fleet's cohesion, once legendary, fractured under the weight of Earth's fury. "This isn't war," he whispered. "It's something else." The junior analyst, now silent, understood. She had seen the archive in motion. Not in files, but in the way Earth moved, like a story retold through fire. The Shorgani had come to study Earth's response. They had found its soul, and it was made of war. Chapter 11. Tacticians' Folly. The war room aboard Vengeance of Stars was silent. Not the silence of discipline, the silence of disbelief. Admiral Corrin stood motionless, eyes locked on the tactical display. Red markers, Shorgani units, blinked out one by one. Earth's forces moved like a tide, coordinated, relentless. unreadable. "This isn't possible," he said again. No one answered. The command staff, once proud architects of Operation Howl, now stared at the screens like mourners at a funeral. Their strategies, simulations, and projections had all collapsed. Earth had not reacted. Earth had rehearsed. The junior analyst, still at her station, whispered, "They were never fooled." Corin turned slowly. His voice was low, brittle. "What did you say?" "They knew," she said, "from the first signal. They let us watch. They let us escalate. They let us believe." Corin's jaw clenched. "Then why respond at all?" She looked at the feed. Earth soldiers moving with ritual precision, recovering their wounded, marking the fallen with symbols older than war. "To study us," she said, "to measure our arrogance." The admiral staggered back as if struck. Outside, the fleet fractured. Shorgani cruisers broke formation. Orders were lost in static. Ground units begged for extraction. No reinforcements came. The Tacticians had built a perfect deception. But they had never considered that Earth might see through it. They had never considered that Earth might be waiting. And now the architects of war were drowning in their own design. Chapter 12. The Long Retreat. They tried to flee. Shorgani dropships scrambled from the surface, engines screaming, hulls scorched. Cruisers broke orbit, abandoning formation, abandoning comrades. The fleet, once a symbol of precision, fractured into chaos. Earth did not chase. Earth hunted. Interceptors rose from hidden silos, sleek and silent. They moved like judgment. No qualms, no mercy, no hesitation. One by one, Shorgani vessels were caught mid-ascent, torn apart in the upper atmosphere. Escape became fantasy. On the ground, Earth's infantry advanced with ritual calm. They did not rush. They did not gloat. They moved like tidewater, inevitable, patient, drowning everything in their path. Admiral Corin issued the retreat command. No one received it. The command ship systems were jammed. Earth's cyber units had infiltrated the fleet hours ago. Every signal was rerouted. Every escape corridor collapsed. The junior analyst sat in silence watching the last Shorgani destroyer spiral into the colony's gravity well. She whispered, "We were never in control." Earth's soldiers recovered their fallen, marked the dead, burned the wreckage. The colony's children sang again, this time a hymn of closure. Above, the sky cleared. Below, the dust settled, and the retreat became a requiem. Chapter 13. The Training Exercise. The battle ended without ceremony. No victory chants, no declarations, no flags raised. Earth's forces withdrew with quiet precision, leaving behind scorched wreckage and marked graves. The colony resumed its rhythm. Children returned to school, farmers to their fields, engineers to their silence. In orbit, Earth's command ship logged the encounter as Crywolf Protocol, Field Simulation, 7A. Debrief notes were clinical. Enemy deception, primitive. Tactical response, satisfactory. Casualty rate, within acceptable range. Morale, high. Archive update, complete. No mention of vengeance, no mention of war, just training. For Earth, the Shorgani incursion had never been a threat. It had been an opportunity, a live fire exercise to test new formations, refine doctrine, and remind the archive that silence is not surrender. A general reviewed the footage. He paused on a frame, a child watching the sky as the first dropships fell. Calm, unblinking. He nodded. "They're ready," he said. No one asked for clarification. On Meyer 7, the colony's preacher resumed his readings. The chapel railgun was sealed beneath the floor. The hymn returned to its original verse, and the dust, once red, settled back into gray. Chapter 14. Die Brilliantly. The transmission was brief. a fragment adrift in deep space, caught in the static between dying stars. No coordinates, no encryption, just a voice, cracked, proud, fading. We were the most brilliant tacticians in the galaxy, and we died brilliantly. It was not a confession. It was a eulogy. The Shorgani homeworld never received a full report. Their fleet vanished without trace. No wreckage, no survivors, no final battle logs. The High Council convened in ceremonial robes, their faces carved from tradition. They blamed anomalies, solar flares, gravitational distortions, quantum miscalculations. They held remembrance rites. They issued medals. They archived the loss. Earth never responded. No message, no warning, no claim. Just silence. On Maya 7, the colony resumed its rhythm. The fields were replanted, the chapel railguns sealed beneath the altar. Children sang beneath the sky where gods had burned. The archive was updated. The fallen were remembered. The soil was tilled. A preacher spoke at dusk. They came to deceive. They left, remembered. No one cheered. No one mourned. The war had not been a victory. It had been a rehearsal. In Earth's command chambers, the footage was reviewed, not for celebration, for calibration. The Shorgani had offered a live scenario. Earth had responded with ritual, precision, memory. The final entry in the archive read, Cry Wolf Protocol, outcome, complete. Enemy deception, absorbed. Response, massive. Legacy, preserved. Above Maya 7, the stars returned to their quiet. And somewhere, drifting in the void, that last transmission pulsed like a dying heartbeat. We died brilliantly. The galaxy would forget their names, but Earth would remember them with silence. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.